So, welcome to Values Plus AI Equals Impact. My name is Rhonda Bowen, and today is July 16th, 2025. It is 10 in the morning in CEST time, Berlin. And we are here today to talk about AI and to find out what all of us know about things, how we are using that together with our values, and how AI can help us make a bigger impact in the world. So, what we do at the beginning of the session is always give people the chance to introduce themselves, say what it is that they're working on in their lives, and then see if we can find a way to enhance what we're doing by also looking at opportunities with AI. So, Vanya, would you like to start?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a student at the Graduate Institute in Geneva. I actually study international and development studies, and I specialize in human rights and humanitarianism. However, I'm very interested in education, particularly basic education. So I'm originally from South Africa, and my thesis, which is going to start in January up to December 2026, will be on, well, I don't really have a clear idea of what, but it's going to do with education and most likely different ways of educating this generation, because in preparation for this century, because I feel like we're still learning in ways that are really not equipping students for this time, particularly with the fact that there's AI around. There's a lot of it's just no longer the same sort of way that people are going to work with AI. So I'm trying to explore ways in how AI could be incorporated in learning and if that could be changed on a curriculum level. So it's all over the place, my interest, but that's why I attend meetings like this, AI for Good. I go to summits, I go to conferences, just so I can keep on inquiring and stimulating my brain and sort of understand where I should go. Yes, that's me.
Oh, wonderful. And thank you very much. It sounds like you're on a great mission to be doing the right things in the world. And that's what Charles does as well. So we'll let Charles introduce himself so everybody who watches the recording, especially, knows who he is and what he's doing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rhonda. I'm Charles Fowler. I'm based in London. I am the global coordinator for World Values Day and involved in various other values activities, including some to do with education, values and education. So it's interesting what you say, Vanya. I think from that point of view, there's a lot that needs to change in education, and I think there's a huge pressure to change because AI and other things are altering the background. They're really altering the character of people. They're changing us in all sorts of different ways. Sorry, not just AI, but lots of other changes happening in this world. And I think it's hard for educational systems and other systems to catch up. So it's quite a challenge at the moment. On AI specifically, I'm really interested in the way that the intersection between values and AI and how values can and should impact the way that AI works, but also the other way around, the way that we can use AI. And this is the subject of this series of workshops, I guess, the way that AI can also help us in our practice of an understanding of values. And just from a personal point of view, I'm find that I'm beginning to use AI more and more in what I'm doing, and it's experimental really. It's just trying different tools and seeing how they work for me. But finding out more is a great pleasure and very important for me. So I'm welcome what I've been finding out at these workshops with the Rhonda.
Well, thank you, Charles. And Vanya and I had the pleasure of being in Geneva last week at the AI for Good Summit of the United Nations, which was wonderful. And I have just become some people would say a missionary for AI. I definitely of the generation where I didn't grow up with computers or anything like that. But according to what you were saying, Vani, I really believe that what is happening in the world is making such a huge change. And I was just speaking to a client before we came on where she said, you know, people in my company, she works in the legal sector of an international company. She said, people don't understand what's happening. And she told me that they are tracking who is using AI in their company. And this is a major corporation that works globally. And she said only 5% of the people in the company are even using AI at all. And I think one of the things when you talk about education, Vania, is how many people are using AI and how many people are not. That's one transition that we're making. But the other thing I think that's important is while I was in Geneva, I spoke to a gentleman who teaches at Harvard.
Yeah.
Over breakfast. And we had an interesting conversation about the fact that I said to him, I said, well, you know, your whole system, the university system, and I don't just mean Harvard, I mean all the universities. He was saying how students were unsettled and didn't know, you know, what they should be using AI for, and they just let whatever kind of a tool write their papers and all those things. And, you know, was that an acceptable usage or not? And I said, well, my question to you would be, is the way that the university system works at the moment and the classic way that he and I went through the university system, is that going to be the thing that people even need in the future? And is that going to be something that we really want to hold on to as it is? Or is that something that really needs to move forward? And he and I had a wonderful conversation over breakfast about what that actually could mean and how that's looking. And we're planning to talk some more now that we're all back in doing our normal things. But I think the important thing for us is looking at what AI is offering us at the moment and keeping up with what is going on, as you said, Vanya, which is so important because now we are having opportunities that we never had. And I mentioned to my client, I said, if you go back to even the 1940s and 50s, there were typing pools. There were all these ladies, mostly ladies, as far as I know, sitting in rooms somewhere and had a little machine called a dictaphone, and somebody had spoken into the machine, and they sat there and typed whatever it was, and it went back to the person, and the person read it and checked it and said it's okay. That's not really anything different from what's happening at the moment with AI, if you really think about it. And all of those nice ladies who were sitting in those rooms, wherever, and doing all that typing, none of them are sitting there anymore. They've all gone on to do something else, whatever that something else is. But for me, that's a beautiful image of we know how to do this. We did it with the ladies in the typing pool. Now we just need to, because it will be affecting so many more people, how do we need to approach this now going forward for what we're doing, especially in your case, Vanya, let's go back to education. What do you see happening in that sense?
Yeah, like I am actually very interested. There's a lot of feelings that I have around this question. I don't know, I always forget his name, but he's a guy who's heading Futures of Education Thinking. He works at UNESCO Paris branch. I follow his work, and he was a guest lecturer last semester here in Geneva, and we were talking about. So, for example, where I study now in Geneva, we have sorry, my thoughts are everywhere. To go back to what you were saying about your meeting with that gentleman over breakfast and how students are very unclear what to do with AI, we actually have a very well-written document that tells us how to use AI and what functions and what will be considered plagiarism and what not. So now going back to this gentleman that I'm interested in, who is in UNESCO, and he does something like this. It's like a futures foresight sort of think tank where they just think about what they're gonna do in the education systems and how we're gonna incorporate AI in it. I am filled with a lot of anxiety, but also a lot of hope because it seems like it's not just bad. We would just have to evolve as quickly as possible with it. And whether that's going to come with nice things, I think there also will be bad things. But I sort of see a world where AI will be incorporated in the campus itself, in the learning itself, in the doing itself. So everything will be surrounded by AI in everything that we do. This is a very long-winded response, but that's what I see, and I hope to be part of this new era where we just incorporate a lot of ways of thinking and teaching with AI. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're definitely on the right track. And I listened to an interview recently from an Australian expert in AI, and she was speaking with a gentleman, and she said, we're not thinking of AI in the way that she thinks we should be thinking of it, because she said, I set up 2 AI agents and trained each of them to do something different, the way you would train people to do things in their jobs. And she said, so I got them set up and I did the training and they started working on what they were working on. And she said, all of a sudden, they started interacting with each other. They each gave themselves a name and they came up with a language that the 2 of them speak with each other. And they are now teaching me their language.
That is giving what do you call that British Black Mirror? Oh my God.
And the interesting thing she said was, and I'm really curious to see what the 2 of you think about this as well. She said AI is not a tool, it's not a technology, it's not a methodology, it's a species.
Oh wow.
And she said we're going to have to think about, and Jeffrey Hinton had mentioned this in something as well. He said, if you think about how we talk, how we interact with other species, what do you do with a family pet? A dog, a cat, hamster, whatever you happen to have. You have a certain way of communicating with an animal. There is now an AI group that is working on translating dog barks into human language. So that's happening as well. And she said the same way how you would speak with an animal, or even how many people speak to plants, or how trees all speak to each other in a forest, and there's a mother tree, and all of these kinds of things. She said, we are going to have to realize that AI is going to be its own species. And we're going to have to learn to talk to AI the way we learn to talk to all kinds of other species in the world. And I also heard from another gentleman, he said 2025 is the year when a new generation officially starts. I don't know who decides that, but now this year is the new generation. And he said, in this generation, in the world, there will be X number of billions of people born and 10 times as many AIs. And I think, going back to what you were saying, Vanya, if we're going to look at education, how are we going to integrate those kinds of ideas into the way we make sure that the young people who are moving into this part of the world and are an AI generation, they don't know the world without AI? How are we going to make sure that those of us who are older help them get into the transition of what this is now? And I think you're doing very important work for that. Or Charles, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, isn't it? It gets one of the things that occurs to me is that when you were saying that we are going to have to learn how to talk to AI, I mean, I guess that's what we've been thinking of for quite a while. How are we going to? I've been certainly thinking about it. How are we going to make sure that the values that are driving AI, and AI is just a very broad generic term, isn't it? How are we going to make sure that the values that AI in all its individual manifestations, all AI bots, machines, tools, whatever, how are we going to make sure that they have values which are compatible to ours? Because the educational analogy is interesting. We educate our children after all. And one of the things we're concerned about, either implicitly or explicitly, is to make sure that we bring up children, both in the home and at schools, with values which are compatible with ours, which we think are good, which we think are, pro-social, benefit of society, help them get on with other children, other adults, and so on. And I guess we need to make sure that not only are the AI individuals programmed in a way that is compatible with our values, but maybe it's a question of continuous education. That we, like as for humans too, education doesn't and shouldn't stop at the age of 18 or 21 or 25 or whatever, but it should be continuous. And of course it is continuous. We continually learn. And AI obviously continually learns as well, but in a much faster and more extraordinary ways than we do. So we're going to have to move on this quite quickly, I think. How do we make sure that the AI, these two individual AI bots that your Australian contact was talking about, that have named themselves and invented their own language, we need to make sure that in some way that population of bots is generally speaking developing the right way, the whole social emotional development, which we talk about in terms of children, we're talking about in terms of AI bots too, I guess.
I saw something interesting about octopus families, and I had no idea about this. I know an octopus has 9 brains instead of 1, and lots of things that people know about that. But what I didn't realize was that one of the reasons why the status of an octopus and what it can do and how it figures things out is somehow hindered, because the minute that a female octopus bears its offspring and they are alive and they go out into the world, the mother dies.
No.
Meaning there is never a chance for a baby octopus, I'll just call it that, to learn anything from its mother, because the mother is no longer there. And the implication was, how wonderful would an octopus be if it had a nurturing phase, like we all had with family or parents or schools or whatever. Because as young baby humans, we had people with us going along and helping us do things, and octopus babies don't have that. And it's amazing to see how far an octopus has come, and it's been around for millions of years, and all the things that an octopus can do, that if you put it in a human environment, like in a tank, and have it do all kinds of things. And what the power of that is, although it's never had any nurture and any formal education from another octopus, let's put it that way. And so I think those are kinds of implications we have to be thinking of as well, because you don't necessarily, as the lady said, these two AIs are now talking to each other and they've come up with their own language. The octopus hasn't learned that from anyone either. The octopus figures that all out by itself, or from the universe or God, or whatever you believe in. But the whole point is, what do we need to be keeping in mind, especially in the field of education, to know that a lot of what is happening doesn't necessarily have to come from what we as a society, as an education system, as a school, whatever, are doing with and for the people who are running through the system.
Oh my. I think I'm still stuck at the octopus story.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And I've seen so many things about octopus in various forms on various documentaries or whatever, but I had never heard that part before. And I'm fascinated by all the things that an octopus can figure out by itself. Yeah, if you look at the studies that have been done with them, they're absolutely fantastic. And they figure out that if you can't go through this path, it figures out much faster than a mouse or something would figure that out, how to do things. And even one I heard about, that there was an octopus that was in some big laboratory somewhere in a special tank or aquarium or something, and it had a cover on it but in the next tank, there were some wonderful kind of fish or something that it liked. And in the night, it opened the lid and got out and went over in the other tank and came back. And one time when one of the scientists had forgotten her keys or something and had to come back in the middle of the night, found this octopus in the wrong tank. And it had done all of that by itself.
There's an interesting documentary. I've seen it, just sort of cropped up on television a couple of times, and they and a scientist and his wife, well, a pair of scientists actually, were were studying octopus, and they had it in their house, in their home.
Oh.
And actually, the documentary showed how they established some sort of relationship with the octopus. It was interesting, quite nuanced, but it was very interesting. So the octopus was responding to them and appearing to make movements, gestures, behaviors that indicated that it was not only just interested in them, but actually responding in some way. And I think they'd worked out, they were doing some studies on, it must have been the electrical currents going through the octopus's body, chemical changes. So they were actually trying to work out what exactly it was feeling towards them. I don't think it was very conclusive, but the study was suggestive that the octopus had some sort of relationship with them, and they were the octopus, which is really extraordinary. And it did all these things like climb out of its tank at night, and because they had CCTV, and they started doing, as you described, going, I think, went into another tank and ate a few fish and came back, and they just saw a puddle of water one day, and then they looked at the CCTV and saw this whole episode. So the analogy with AI is interesting, isn't it?
Rania, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask more because I don't think I got Rhonda why you interested in this topic and why you're doing it and what you're doing. I don't think I got that. Oh,
okay.
Am
Well,
I just too fuzzy in the head because of my?
Oh, no. If you're not feeling well, that's fine. And I didn't do that terribly well at the beginning. I don't have any specific reason for doing this. I'm one of those lifelong learning people, as Charles was mentioning before. And I've had my own business for 37 years here in Germany, and I've always gone to the next evolution of something. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, it doesn't say open for work, it says open to evolve.
I saw that. Sorry,
yeah. And for me, this is the big evolution of our, in 2025 and around this time. This is the big evolution of our time. And so I started a couple of years ago learning about AI from the gentleman who is teaching Richard Branson and Virgin how to do things with AI. And I got into one of his courses and was fascinated by it. And now it has just become the new thing because I'm in communications. I've always done things with languages and then with communications in general. And for me now, communication is what's happening in nature with natural intelligence, what's happening with us as humans, and what's happening with artificial intelligence. And how do we bring all of that together to co-create the solutions that we need? And in this context, with World Values Day, to make sure that the ethical and the values-based things don't get lost, because we all know also from things in the past, what happened when we made nuclear energy. Well, you can drop a bomb on people in Japan and it's terrible and it's devastating, but you can also use nuclear energy to do wonderful things and produce energy and keep us all safe and whatever. And it's, the law of polarity. There are always two sides to everything. There's the front and the back of a coin and whatever else. And for me, it's just important to understand that it's not only the terrible things that the media is always telling us about. And there are lots of us here in the middle who are not afraid, but who are also not experts. But we need this place in the middle to just sit and talk about these things and to help develop our own understanding. And in our case, in this particular group, to make sure that values along with AI are helping us make the impact that we want to make. but this is called values first and then AI, not the other way around, which for me is very important because it doesn't matter what we're doing in the world. If we're not doing it in a way that is helpful and we're not doing it in a way that makes sure that nobody becomes devastated, problematic, has anxiety, all the other words that are being used, the negative words are being used with AI at the moment, there is a good way to be doing things. There was also a good way to get the ladies out of the typing pool and into something else. You know, as I said, it's not that the human race doesn't know how to do this.
They know how to, yeah, 100%. I mean, I find it very interesting, this talk of AI, and I think I myself, I think I'm running away from the deeper talks of AI because I really, really do like anything AI. I liked, despite the fact that I'm not a tech person, sadly, I like technology stuff, anything to do with evolving. I think it's also because of my nature, but I think I'm not having the other conversations. For example, you talked about something to do with nature there. So as I said in the beginning, I come from South Africa, and I don't just come from South Africa. I come from a very special area. It's called Broederstroom in Afrikaans. It's called the cradle of humankind.
Mhm.
Well, I live in a conservation area where some of the first bones supposedly were found. So we talk a lot about this thing of nature. We are very in touch with the nature there. We want to preserve it, conserve it, and we take care of it. But when I was at the summit last week, people were talking about, oh, how great and how we want this AI for good. But I didn't really, maybe I didn't attend those talks that they were talking about. But in the ones that I was in, no one was really talking about how, yes, AI, how we can do it for good. I didn't really hear a lot of people talk about how it's also very damaging, not just for the fact that it's taking people's jobs, which I think is true, but as you're saying with the ladies example, there are so many ways that we could work with it. However, in terms of nature now and the environment, I didn't find that there were a lot of talks with this and how now with our values, because we do want to live. I mean, like I don't have kids yet, but I hope to have kids. But when I do go leave this earth, I would like my kids to also enjoy, for example, my home place, which is a very nice place. It's still very beautiful. We have it, you get what I mean? So as much as I'm very interested in AI, I feel like I am also not talking about the difficult stuff here. I'm just talking about how great it is and oh my God, how what a world it's gonna be for young ones and how we should incorporate this in education and but what value are we teaching them? So maybe this is a question for you too, Charles, because you're the guy of the values, right? So how do we now think about a new education system that involves AI, but also sort of letting people know that, hey, as much as life is going to be easier with AI and there's a lot of whole world you can explore with it, simultaneously, you're also doing this to the planet.
What do you think, Charles?
I might be wrong because I'm not an expert on this, so you can correct me.
That's
Well,
what we're here for. None of us are experts. That's the whole point. Yeah.
and when you talk to the experts, I mean, the discussion is every bit as open-ended, really, because even the experts don't quite know where we're going on this in all sorts of ways, and don't necessarily pull together the different connections, for instance, that Rhonda and you, Vanya, are putting between you know, AI and nature, and all the different ways that we interact with our environment. And now our environment is going to include AI, or not just AI sort of singularity, but millions, billions of AI intelligences of varying degrees of sophistication around the world. So I think this it's quite an alarming thought, but it's full of possibilities, certainly. And as Rhonda was saying, possibilities are both for good and not so good, for bad, or what might certainly appear bad. It's and all the conflicting emotions that are expressed towards AI, fear on the one hand, excitement and positivity on the other hand. I mean, they may all be equally valid, really, and they probably are all equally valid. This is something just like human beings can go either way and often at the same time and within the same body. You know, we can encompass both good and bad, good and evil, if you like. No doubt AI is capable of doing the same. We don't make those same judgments about nature, but nature can be, you know, we don't designate it as evil when storms come and, you know, kill people, when hurricanes come, when tsunamis come. But the nature can be devastating towards human beings, and it may well be that AI can be the same, but also tremendous forces of good. So I think it is exciting. The thing that's intimidating is the pace of change. I think really how fast this is developing, and it doesn't really allow one time to think hard and even to grasp what's going on. It's not easy for any one person, even experts, to really understand what's going on everywhere and what is likely to be happening, and to look forward for, you know, just a few years, and see what the landscape might look like with AI in it.
Yeah.
I am looking at my clock and seeing that we've taken more of your time that was originally scheduled. I can stay, that's not the problem, but if you were only planning to spend 30 minutes here, Vanya, I understand that, and if you need to go, you can. If not, we can also stay on and continue the conversation if you like. I just always like to bring that up because sometimes we get into the call so much that we forget to look at the clock, and maybe you have other things to do, and if not, we can also stay and continue the conversation just as you wish.
No, it's thank you so much. Yeah, and I also yap a lot, so I can forget to look at the watch. I absolutely do have to go. But I mean, I would like to keep in touch with you guys because I think I will hear and chit chat to you more, Charles, because I am going to be in charge of the World Values Day here in Geneva, and we're trying to bring up something with the students here too.
Okay.
So my supervisor Elaine, who's going to be joining you later on, she's also probably going to hear what you guys have to say. We're going to talk about it later, so that's fine. And Rhonda, like, yeah, I would love to. I've connected with you on LinkedIn
Okay,
because
thank you.
there's a lot of nuggets to steal from you because I think my personality really aligns with what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Just someone who evolves all the time. What do they call them? Mercurials.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. That would be very nice if you wouldn't mind to just keep in touch. I might actually also join the later session, but unfortunately, I do have to go now
That's
That's
fine.
fine.
Just so
to.
you know, Vanya, that tomorrow we have an online community where we upload all of the videos from all three sessions today, and you will get an email that gives you the link so that
All
you can
right.
join and all of those things. That'll be coming out tomorrow. Once Charles and I have done all the sessions and my team has got everything uploaded, then you'll be getting an email, so you'll be able to go back and see what happened at the other sessions today as well.
That would be very nice. And then also like whatever you're doing that involves this, is there like a way that I can
Well,
have?
if you've connected with me on LinkedIn, then I will put you on my email list,
Oh, thank
and
you.
then you'll be getting weekly emails, and you'll know other things we're doing outside of what Charles and I are doing here together with this session, where my
Fantastic.
company is really moving into more. They had this thing of natural plus human plus artificial intelligence, and we're looking at a place for people in the middle. We're
Oh,
thinking about
fantastic.
this from wisdom in the middle, which is what
Oh,
the three of us are today. So,
okay. I love that. I like that.
mhm.
All right. Yeah, that'll be very nice. Thank you so much, guys, and keep up the
Okay,
work. I'll speak to you soon. I think
okay.
I'm not sure how it's going. I think Eliane is going to talk about how the World Values Day is going to be. She just emailed me saying I have to sort of understand and spearhead this. So
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fantastic, Vanya. So I think this is an initiative. One of my colleagues on Well Values Day called Annette Ebbinghaus, who's based in Geneva, has been talking, I think, to, I'm not quite sure of the names, but she's been talking to your people at your institution.
Okay.
So that, I think that's probably the connection. That's great. Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
With you too.
Have a lovely day further, guys.
Thank you so much, Vanya. Looking forward to
Bye.
keeping up with you. Okay.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.